That was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Feeling good.
My name is Harry Troney. I'm 29 years old. I'm the founder of Greendale Performance Centre, and I've just completed my first full distance Ironman in Lanzarote. I don't even know where to begin about the day, but the story of the Ironman is definitely going to have to go back 6 months to when I signed up for the ticket. I had a bit of a naive outlook on how the race is going to go and what it entails until I was discussing it with people. And the more and more I discussed it, the more I realised actually I do need to get myself a coach and actually take it seriously. Because in 2022, I did the Staffordshire Half Ironman and winged it, didn't train for it, turned up, I actually completed that one. So my confidence was high because I know that I'm mentally quite strong. But the feeling I had after that to do the exact same again made me realise that actually I needed to put a bit more time and a bit more effort into this one and actually see what I could where I could take it. So 6 months ago, I found my online coach, which was Jack Casey, who works for TV Triathlon based in Stafford. And he set out a plan for me from day one around my schedule, my lifestyle, to basically get me the best prepared for taking this challenge on. So I am massively impulsive. I don't really think a lot of stuff through. I just think, right, that's a good idea, let's do it. I didn't have a great start to fitness, as you might expect now, completing an Ironman. But it wasn't until my mid-20s that I got into, early 20s, I got into fitness. And then I've just been trying to tick boxes off and set myself challenges, really. So I like to sign up for stuff without overthinking it too much and then worry about it afterwards. And this was definitely one of those where I booked the ticket and then it was like, right, what's next then? Let's try and tackle this problem and tackle this challenge and see what we can get out of it. 2 days out from the Lanzarote Ironman, I've just done my last run and cycle for it. So yeah, the body feels good. My knees are a bit sore, but I'm a big guy. I'm a big bloke and I've been hammering them for 6 months. And I think they're finally saying, right, enough's enough, but we've got one more run to do and that's the last run technically I'll ever have to do. So I'm excited to get that done. Yeah, I think me, Craig and I were the heaviest blokes in the race by far. There was a lot of 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 kilos, and there was a big gap then between me and Craig, who walked to know 100, 103. Less whip it, more pug. Whack that in.
Yeah, helmet.
Helmet, which has been sticking up. Hang on. Helmet. Yeah. Sunglasses. I'll put them in now so it's done, yeah?
Think fuel now.
Okay.
So you're going to have 2 bottles on the bike or 3?
I've got 3, including the one that's built into it.
So 3 bottles. Well, how many gels are you going to take for the run? There's going to be aid stations, remember?
Yeah, I want to try and take as much of my own stuff so I can just not worry about it.
It's all mortar.
So I'm going to do...
hundreds for the run.
Hundreds for the run. So I'd rather have little and often on the run.
Yeah.
Because I think the bike's going to really take it out of me.
Yeah.
So the big ones for the... So how many of them have I got? 7 for the bike.
Yeah.
Which, plus the 320 mixes. Right. Okay.
Okay, you happy?
Yeah. The great thing about the Ironman race is if I quit all my jobs, had nothing else to do but train, the likelihood of me becoming first was minimal. Pretty much impossible. The actual professional triathletes that completed that course yesterday in like 8.5 hours, 9 hours, are unfathomably fit and conditioned for it. And it's a lifestyle and they live and breathe it. And yeah, you have to remove yourself out of the equation of competition with those people. At the end of the day, I'm a normal bloke. I've just been setting myself high challenges and going after it. So really the only competition that I had was with myself. And I knew that I had what it mentally took to get through it, but the 140.3 mile endurance race wasn't just about mental stamina. You have to be prepared for it and conditioned to it. You can be less prepared than you think, but you're gonna have a very, very difficult day. But I did put a lot of work into this, and I trained and I sacrificed a lot in the months building up to it. And I really do believe that showed on race day, which is funny really, because the time that I completed it in I think is a very respectable one. But again, it's nowhere near, I mean, it wasn't even top half of the completion rate, but you know, I was probably one of the top 5% biggest blokes on the course. And it's definitely in the top 3, but it's arguably the hardest one because of the elevation, and the cycle course is the most difficult. It's not only the elevation which takes it out of you, it's quite mentally draining as well, because every hill you went up, there was another hill afterwards. There was no break. And the wind, the headwinds, was unforgiving. It just didn't stop. The whole course, it didn't stop until probably the last 20 odd, 30 odd K when you're coming back into town. It was behind you, which was a big help. But before that, you just climbed and climbed and climbed. And you're looking at your watch, you're doing 7 miles an hour. And then in your head, you're working out how long that's going to take you. And you're thinking, bloody hell, I want to be on this bike for like 10, 11 hours. It just was just unrelenting. It was just consistently painful. I love you. Here we go, guys. The big day's here. Stood here now, in the midst of it all. Feeling good, feeling ready, feeling apprehensive and eager, a bit of nerves. Let's go, that's it, innit? Yeah.
I'll come back there.
Right, see you later.
All the best, mate. Good.
And there they go, our pro men are off and into the water here at Pueblo Santa, IRONMAN and Karate.
De hecho, como estamos viendo también en la zona del mar, esas boyas son unas boyas geolocalizadas, por lo tanto no están ancladas al fondo marino. Eso significa que quizás son un poquito más duras que las boyas normales, por eso estamos viendo.
The swim, I have a little bit of swimming experience. I swam the English Channel with the relay team about 4 years ago, and I've been a decent swimmer all my life. I've had a lot of experience with swimming pools and, you know, being a confident swimmer. But again, 3,800 meters of open water swimming is completely different to doing lengths in a pool. But even if it's an Olympic distance of 25 meters, it's, you know, every time you turn or do a lap in a pool, it's a break. You can come up for breath, you can get going again, you can push off the wall. Open water, once you're out there, you're out there. That's it. It's non-stop until the end. 2 laps with an Aussie exit, which means that at halfway, you have to actually get out onto the beach and run about 20 meters to rejoin the swim where you started. I actually quite like that idea of that, because in my head I can split it up into 2 equal distance laps, get the first one out of the way, readjust, go again. The long straight of the swim, the current was facing us, going towards us, which made the actual long stretch, the hardest part, even harder. And bear in mind, there was technically like 1,000 people in the water swimming at the same time, all racing against each other. So they had their own times to beat, which made the water was quite aggressive. I had my goggles knocked off my face, loads of hands touching my legs, my shoulders as it going past, and yeah, it's quite. So I think you have to be confident that you can swim, because I think if you can easily quite panic in the seawater. Plus, you try not to digest or intake any salt, which is very difficult in the sea. But the swim was okay. I was very, very conscious from start to finish about my heart rate and actually being conservative, because I was very aware that this was an endurance race. So if I went out too fast, then it's going to pay me back halfway through the cycle or even the run or anything like that. So the swim went really well. I did it in 1 hour and 10 minutes, which I think was faster than I anticipated. Wetsuits help, keeps you buoyant. Yeah, it's 4 minutes ahead of my anticipated time by Jack. He set me out at about 1:14 to 1:20 mark. Doing 1 hour and 10 I was really impressed with that. And I didn't feel too bad throughout the whole thing. I just kept myself at a decent pace. I never overdid it. I just tried to be really, really conservative and focus on my technique rather than going all out. I did not want to blow out on the swim, which it's 10% of the race. And everyone that I spoke to, there's a chap called Dave Miles who's 61. He did Lanzarote with us, and it was his 41st Ironman. And one bit of advice that he gave me before the swim was, you can't win an Ironman from the swim, but you can f it up. And that stuck with me, and I was thinking, right, so if I was too conservative on the swim and it cost me a bit of time, that's where I can make it back up on the cycle or even the run then. And that was my attitude for the swim. First transition, this was what paid dividends with having an actual coach. And I actually flew Jack out here, and he brought a lad called Ollie, who was also another coach for TV Triathlon in Stafford. And the day before race day, they came over and they basically organised all of my race kit, race bags. Obviously, as they're, you know, serious Ironman athletes, they are really minimalist, and they don't want me overpacking or taking anything that I don't need. So they went through all my bags, and in my first transition box, it was literally just bike helmet, sunglasses, cleats, gels. That was it, nothing else. It was all laid out ready. I swam in my tri-suit under my wetsuit, out the water, legs are completely gone, which is mad because you haven't really used them for like 1 hour and 10 minutes, they've been floating. So the last, say, 100, 200 meters of the swim, you're trying to kick your legs to get the blood flow back into them. So when you do land on the beach, you're not like all over the place, stumbling about. First transition was 5 minutes, I believe, which is fast for, you know, an amateur triathlete. Well, and also my first proper one. Yeah, so whacked that, got the bike out, pre-race, filled up all my bottles, my fueling, my nutrition. That was all ready to go. Got out onto the course and set off, but I felt really strong for it. I was aware that via Dave, he told me after doing Lanza 4 or 5 times that he knew that the first 60k of the cycle course was basically uphill. Conservative will, like slow and steady will win the race here. So the first 60k, I took it really easy. Just as long as I felt good, that was where I was going to stop. And I just kept pushing, because you can't go fast uphill. I could have gone faster, but I don't think that would have helped out later on in the race. I think my strategy with timing and conserving my energy was impeccable. It really, I did that really well. Kept sipping my nutrition, kept on top of that, made sure that before my mouth got dry, I'd already drank some fluids. Again, another bit of advice from Dave. Said to me, if your mouth goes dry at any point on this course, it's already too late, you're already dehydrated. So it's keeping on top of that, being very strict. Even if I didn't feel like I needed a gel, every half an hour I'd have one, regardless of how I felt. And that is what got me through the cycle with such a huge amount of fuel left in the tank. It was difficult, don't get me wrong. It was just, like I said, it was the first 100k was like uphill. And every time you got to the top of a hill, you'd hit like a 30-foot flat, and then it'd be another hill. So you'd be going up, looking at the brow of this hill, thinking that's my target, we're going for it, we're going there. And you know, you're doing 7 miles an hour on the bike up the hill, and you're in the lowest gear possible, your legs are doing 90 RPM, and you're going for it, and you're getting up there. And then all of a sudden you think, right, I'm gonna have a break in a minute, and you get there and it wasn't. It was so mentally draining. And then you're looking at your watch and you've done half an hour uphill, but you've done 3 miles. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like I'm gonna be on this for 11 hours. It's gonna, like, this is gonna be a long day in the office. You did the first climb, you had a break then, which you did manage to get some real good speed up. Rest your legs, recover, and then it was the actual big climb up the Mirador on the Lanzarote one. The total elevation gain on Lanzarote is about 8,000 feet, or 2,500. No, well, it's about 8,000 feet of elevation across the whole race on the cycle. And you knew that 75–80% of the elevation was in the first 2/3. So you're sort of pacing yourself to catch your time back up on the last third, because you know it's going to be downhill back into the town, back into the sea level. And you're just sort of waiting for that moment to sort of like guess this is the start of the end now, and you can push on a little bit harder. There was 8 aid stations across the cycle. The support was amazing, but there was, because obviously it's 180 kilometers, there are some points where you've probably got an hour of just you on your own grinding. And there was one stretch of road going across the volcanic rock, and it was fairly flat, but you could see one end of the road to the other, and it was about 6 miles long. And the gradient was probably about an 8% incline, so it wasn't too steep, but it was enough to, you know, you're not going to be able to get any coasting out of it. And the headwind, it was unforgiving. It just did not stop. You hit it and it was just constant on you. You could pedal as much as you can, get in your aero position, do whatever you needed to do, but you weren't going above 10 miles an hour. And you can see the end of this road, and it just did not get closer at all. And you just grinded it out. And then you got guys on special TT bikes with the, I call them the Alien versus Predator helmets that go down the back all aerodynamic, and they're going past you. And it's like, it's heartbreaking, because you're like, I am on this now for 45 minutes of just constant pain. But I will reflect back onto the training, and I did a lot on my turbo because I signed up for this race in late 24. Timing wise, it's the hardest triathlon to train for also, because you have to train over winter. So I did so much training on the turbo. The difference between a turbo trainer and then actually getting out on the road is, on a turbo, you cycle for 100% of your session. Whereas if you go out on the road, you will get a decline where you can have a break and you can stop. Where that helped me out because my legs were conditioned to not stop. And that's what I think really helped me out on the bike, was I could just find that low effort, high RPM and just be consistent throughout it. And those big sections of like daunting roads ahead of you all of a sudden did come to an end eventually. The aid stations were fantastic. Again, the heat started coming about 10, 11 o'clock. Jack was really strict on how I would tackle the aid stations. So I had 3 750ml bottles of water mixed with 320 mix more 10 carbohydrates. That was my sipping. That was me just to have consistently throughout the race. And then every aid station, he was saying, try and grab a bottle of water to obviously hydrate yourself, cool yourself down, pour it over your head, things like that, down your back. And then they always had bottles of 226s, electrolytes, energy fuel. Try and get a bottle of that. Again, once my actual more 10 bottles had run out, discard those, replace them with the stuff that was on the aid station courses. Nutrition was key, and I was really, really on top of that, really strict to myself, but that really, really worked out for me in the end.
Vamos! Yes, Harry!
Yes, Harry! Harry! Let's go!
So Jack estimated that my bike would take 6 hours and 40 minutes. I did it in 6 hours and 44 minutes, so he was bang on the money there. As my first race, you'd assume that my experience being nothing would throw all of the tactics out the window, but I was really, really conscious of the fact that this race was so long and I was keeping such a close eye on my heart rate. My average heart rate for the cycle was 140, which is spot on for zone 2, which is where you want to be for an endurance race. Every time it peaked up a hill, I'd make sure that I sort of scrapped off chasing time. It was more about chasing how I felt, and if I felt good, that means I could go for longer. And that was quite difficult to do, because even though I may have felt the push on a little bit further, a little bit harder, I knew that after this I might have another 70 miles of the course left or 40 miles of the course left. And I kept reminding myself, obviously once I stop cycling, technically it's the last cycle I'm ever going to have to do, but then I've also got to run a marathon directly afterwards. So coming off the bike, so this is T2 now, where I park my bike up, swap my cleats for my running trainers. Again, Jack's experience helped me out. He made me put elastic laces in my trainers. He organised all my gels. I already had my sunglasses on from T1. It was a case of pack your bag up. One thing I did forget was sun cream, and getting into the marathon about 3 p.m. is where the sun was at the highest point in Lanza, and it was 25 degrees, no shade. It was, and obviously I've got a buzz cut, which means the sun can hit directly in my head. It was just unforgivingly hot, and it really just blistered down onto us. Luckily, the staff for the Ironman actually had sun cream available. So a lovely lady in T2 put some on my shoulders, back of my neck, and then it was a case of, right, that's that done. Let's just crack on with the marathon. Yeah, 4-minute transition again. Really, really happy with that. I just didn't, obviously, because everything was organised, I didn't have a need to rest. I didn't want to rest. It's a race at the end of the day. That was my attitude towards it. Like, I'll rest on the course. I'll take it a little bit easier. I'll do an extra 30 seconds a kilometre for 5 kilometres to get myself cooled down and get back into it. I didn't want to sit down and stop at any point because I didn't want to seize up. And I thought that's what would be more of a problem than rushing the transition. Does that make sense?
Yes, Harry! Nice and steady, man! Chill! Come on, Harry! That's it! Love you! You got this!
Straight onto the marathon now. Saw my family for the start of it, which was amazing. There was one 20k loop and two 11k loops for the marathon distance. First 20k, you ran up the strip, which the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. You get out of town then, and the atmosphere stops, and you're running towards the airport, and it was just open, in the heat, wind, no support, and you're just chasing athletes in front of you. You're getting overtaken by athletes behind you, and it's just one up, one down. So everyone coming this way, looking at their faces, and everyone is in the hurt locker now. And that is like, you don't want to look like he does when you're at that stage in the next half an hour. So you're so conscious of not overdoing it. The first 20k of the marathon I ran at a 6-minute kilometre pace, which I was so happy about. I thought that's bang on the money of where I want to be. I thought that's gonna land me at a 4-hour marathon, and I felt good. Again, my nutrition, I had all my gels packed for the run. We worked out my carbohydrates per hour, and I took the correct amount of gels. I used Morton gels for this whole race and training, and my digestive system was used to that. It didn't cause me any issues. On the race itself, they had 226s gels, which I'd never tried before. And the last thing I wanted to do was pick up one of those, have it, and it upset me. So I tried to stay away. Well, I did stay away from those completely throughout the race. Stuck to my Morten. Like I said, I planned ahead correctly, so I didn't actually need any extra gels. After lap 1, I stopped to say hello to my family for about 40 seconds. And then after 2 or 3k of lap 2, my legs just completely stopped working. Everything started hurting. My heart rate on the run averaged out at 123. So aerobically, I was fine. I wasn't overdoing it. I felt good, but my legs weren't conditioned to running that far before. I've never ran a marathon before, and I also only managed to run 1 half marathon and 1 30k prior to the Ironman itself. So speaking to Jack after the race, he said everything was fine, your fitness was definitely there, it was just conditioning your body to withstand that pain for a longer period of time. 25k in, and I was just, right, tactic now is walk and recover, get that pace, get that heart rate down, get that feeling back into my legs, get some energy back in, then I'll run for 500 metres, and I'll repeat that. On the way back from lap 2, I saw Dave Miles. He gave me, we stopped, we had a chat, caught up with him. He was about an hour behind me, gave me some good advice, motivated me. I kept going, kept pushing. And actually on lap 3 of the marathon, I actually caught up with Dave, and then we ran about 15k together. The hardest part about the marathon was the heat. It was just constant on the back of your head. You are stopping at aid stations, taking 2 glasses of water, pouring one over yourself, drinking the other, pouring it down your top. You know, you cannot get cold, you cannot get cool. The wind helped, but it didn't fix anything. Dave helped me get through the 15k that we ran together. And then all of a sudden, something I didn't have an issue with in training, so I was unaware it was even possible, was my digestive system suddenly packing in. Nothing was ever a build-up regarding how I felt. It was like I felt amazing, and then the next step I felt awful. There was no, oh, this doesn't feel good, and it's, you know, a minute later it starts kicking in. It was like somebody flicks a switch. I needed to be sick. I needed to use the toilet. I needed to like relieve myself like instantly, and it just comes over you like a wave, and you don't have any other choice but to just fixate all of your thoughts onto how you're feeling, and that takes your mind away from the race. So at about 30k in, I had to start keeping a real good eye on where the aid stations were for toilets. Bear in mind, I'm now 11 hours into the race, 12 hours into the race. I've drank so much fluids, sweated out so much fluids, must have had 600 grams of carbohydrates in basically just scientific sugar pouches. That's all the Mawson gels are. They're just bicarbs. They're just designed to fuel you, nothing else. They're probably really bad for you if you were to take them on a daily basis, but in a sports endurance environment, they're amazing. That came over me like a wave. I had to use the loo. It helped, but my stomach was in pieces. My hip flexors were gone. My knees started to hurt. My Achilles, my ankles. The only thing that didn't hurt, which surprised me about the run, was my muscles. My quads and my hamstrings and my calves, they're all fine. It was all of the tendons and the joints. That was what I think was inflamed by the constant movement for 12 hours. And every step was as suddenly painful. I had the best trainers, I had carbon Nikes, you know, I've done everything correctly. I had socks on, I had sole inserts for the trainers to keep my feet aligned. I ticked every single box, but you just can't, it's only through experience. So to do a second Ironman now, in my head, the swim went okay, bike went well, the run is what caught me out. I was on for a 4-hour marathon, and I was over the moon to do that, especially after the swim and the cycle. But once 25k sat in and my legs stopped moving, I sort of thought, right, give up on aiming for a 4-hour marathon. It's not going to happen now. But I want to enjoy the race, not have an awful last 2 hours and hate it. So I did what I could. I moved as fast as I physically could, which worked out to an average of about 7 minutes a kilometre then, with a bit of walking, a bit of running. And it just slowly ticked me over until the finish line. Dave actually sent me off on the last 5k. He said, Harry, go and smash this out, mate. Don't wait for me anymore. Go and run your own race. Go and finish. Go and see your family and wait for me at the finish line. And he turned off to go and use the loo himself and sent me on my own way. And I knew that in my head I had 5k to run, which on an average day is like, what, sub 25 minutes at an easy, doesn't kill me. But I can do that. And that is it. I thought, I've got 5k to run, and technically I don't ever have to run again. That was the mindset through it. And you just pick up. Coming back into town, there was probably 2.5, 3k of atmosphere. You do find energy. What the human body can do when you don't feel like you can do anything is incredible. Mind over matter. You just push on. And I knew, 5K away, which is 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's all over, and you've just got to be mentally resilient to the pain and just push on. Getting towards the finish line, everyone's got a tracker on me, and I can start hearing my family's voices, my friends' voices, all cheering me on, and you're running down that red carpet at the end, and it is just, all the pain goes away. You don't feel anything other than euphoria. You're just adrenaline, you know, tension, pressure, it's all lifted. And all you feel is just, oh my God, I've done it. And then you go into the main bit and the atmosphere of the crowd. And that's what's most amazing about the Ironman is like, everyone has come out to support probably their own partners or family members or friends, but they're cheering on absolutely every athlete. There's parts on the cycle where you'd be in the middle of nowhere and there'd be a small group of 10 people, but they wouldn't just cheer one person, have a break and cheer the next one. They would cheer every single cyclist or runner that went past them. Every single one of them. And that is what you think, Jesus Christ, like people understand that this is like such a big deal. Even for spectators, it's like the atmosphere is what gets you going. You know, you can actually absorb the energy from the surrounding area and the people from the sideline. And it's just overwhelming because you're going along and you've got random blokes shouting your name out from your number badge and women holding signs, you know, spurring you on, and you feel it, and you feel the energy, and then it keeps you going. Going through the tunnel at the end was unbelievable.
You are an Ironman!
A lady put a medal over my head, and you got to announce that you are an Ironman, and that's it. All that hard work's done. So I finished in 13 hours and 1 minute, which I am over the moon about. 13 hours for Lanzarote is incredible. They always say if you wanted to do an Ironman, you had a time in your head to add 90 minutes to 2 hours on for Lanza, just down to the wind and the elevation on the bike course. I expected to do it in 14 and a half. So to hit 13, I was absolutely just over the moon by. I am annoyed about the 1 minute. If I knew it was going to be so close, would I have found, you know, a minute or 2 minutes of harder efforts to push forward and break that 13-hour mark? Maybe, but at the time, you know, hindsight, I pushed as hard as I could for as long as I could. I don't think, looking back, I could have done it any quicker, but that'll always live with me now, unless I do another one. The race day was a celebration of the hard work that was put in previously. That's what I want to say about the Ironman is. You don't train for the Ironman for no reason. It's the hardest thing ever. But you can't be doing 4-hour, 5-hour cycles on a Saturday morning followed by an hour run to then have it all fall apart on the day if you take it seriously. The race itself is a celebration of all the hard work that you've put in over the last 6 months. That's why my attitude towards it was being conservative and trying to enjoy it over killing myself. You know, the sacrifice to do it was immense. On my family, I've got a little girl who, you know, missed countless bedtimes and evenings with her. You know, you get back from work and you know that you've got like a 2-hour cycle to do, a 2-hour run to do. And not only that, during all this, I decided to try and actually open up and start my own business of owning a gym. So the marketing and the building of that has taken its toll on me. And I also have my family business, which I was working at, you know, 9-10 hour days, 6 days a week. So fitting everything in was very, very difficult. And I think that's what is so special about the Ironman is, like, how people perform on the day is just a reflection of how much effort they've put in over the last 6 months. And that doesn't mean that things can't go wrong. I could have had a puncture, you know, I could have come off my bike, I could have rolled my ankle on the run. You know, you can only control what you can control. Everything else is outside of your control, is just the way of the world. I knew that I put 100% in before and after and during the race. And that's all you can do, you know, you don't have to be in the top 1% to give it 100%, and that includes training and the race day. I think I've pretty much covered everything from Lanza. Everything aches, everything hurts. The recovery's I'm gonna have to have a week off. I'm already 3 days post. Muscles are okay. It's just purely like my ankles and my knees and my tendons. That is what is really painful. Sunburn has killed me. want to end the video with, I am living proof that if you want to do something and you have the attitude of I can do anything, you absolutely can. And nothing will ever be taken away from you if you're having a go at anything. Failure is not an option if you give 100%. If I did not complete the Ironman for whatever reason, I know that I still would have put 100% in until that point, and that's what counts. You know, you can't half-heart absolutely anything you do in life. You've just got to sign up to something and think, right, that's me now, that's it, done, give 100%. And like I said, you're not competing with anybody else but yourself. And I think that's what's special about the Ironman. You are in it on your own, against yourself, from start to finish.